All right, a lot of people have been asking me, why'd you get rid of your beetles? They're super cool, whatever. I just decided to make a quick video rather than keep repeating myself over and over and over and over. So the number one thing that I get when I started having this conversation is people are like, you had millions of views on social media and whatever with your beetles, which is true. On Instagram, I had a couple videos that got up to like over 2 million views between the two videos, which was pretty cool. Totally unexpected. Wasn't what I was trying to do, but it was cool. When it comes down to it, that's not why I'm doing what I'm doing. You know, I learned taxidermy and am learning taxidermy to become a taxidermist. There's a lot of beetle channels and beetle people out there that put out some pretty cool stuff that have got, you know, time lapses and video stuff set up in their containments and all this high tech, you know, stuff that I'm never gonna do and I have no desire to do. You know, I could have taken advantage of all that attention that my page got from those videos, but like I said, that's not what I'm trying to do. So that's that. I've done skulls just about every way you can think of, besides burying them in the ground. I've heard some horror stories of, you know, Mr. Taxidermist wakes up and his 20 skulls got pulled out of the ground by coyotes and raccoons and whatever, and they're gone. So, not going to try burial, but back in the day I used to actually boil them. Don't boil anything anymore. I've simmered them in warm water, you know, like 140 degrees, and peel the meat off as you can. Works great if you're careful. I've tried warm water maceration, cold water maceration, and the beetles. So, and you can get a great skull using any of those methods. I wouldn't suggest actually boiling water. That's the one thing I would say don't do. So, into the reasons why I got rid of the beetles. Here's the biggest thing for me is when it comes to a deer or any antlered or horned animal, the real trophy that you're putting on your wall for me is the antlers. Here's a skull I just did for a customer. A lot of people get really obsessed with the exact quality of the bone, and for me the antlers is like a deer's fingerprint. The skulls are pretty much all the same. This one did not get beetled. If you go on my website and look, most of the skulls that you'll see on there were not beetled, but this is a great looking skull. A lot of people get obsessed with the inner nose there. Looks great. Was not beetled. All right, number one reason I got rid of the beetles is the grease. They are extremely dirty. They leave a ton of crud on those skulls, and it doesn't take them long to leave all that junk on there. They get rid of every single shred of meat, but they leave a ton of grease. It takes forever to degrease them. Constant water changes. It's just very high maintenance when it comes to degreasing specifically. I've had skulls come out of the beetles that have been in the containment for like 3-4 days, and they come out and they're like almost black from all the stuff they left on them. That's not the case with all of them. That's a pretty extreme scenario. I had a lot of skulls that weren't that bad, that didn't get that dirty, but there's potential for them to get very dirty. The second reason is the smell, and there's a couple different things going on here. The first one is the smell that they leave on the skull. Okay, so they will crawl all over the antlers. You know, they don't eat the antlers, for those of you that aren't familiar with these beetles, but they smell bad. And that smell stays on the antlers, and you have to deodorize the antlers and deodorize the skull, which is going to happen when you degrease it anyway. But with the antlers, it's especially problematic. If you don't degrease them, and then you or your customer comes to pick this up, that scent will stay on your hand just from holding the antlers, which is a problem. It's, you know, in extreme cases, they can be a pain to deodorize, but it's another thing that I don't want stinky antlers. And then the other part of the smell is the smell in the air, which if you have your containment set up correctly and you have it vented well, the smell in the room that you're keeping the containment is going to be very, very minimal, as long as you keep it closed for the most part. The more you open it, the more the room is going to smell. Okay, so reason number 3 is the upkeep. And what I mean by that is, say during deer season and after deer season, when you have a lot of stuff to give them, they feed and they feed and they feed, and they like ramp up feeding. They start breeding more, and they start chewing through things really fast. And then you start slowing down as you get, you know, into spring and summer, and you still need something to feed them. And you can keep a bunch of scraps. I did that. You can get things from butchers. I've got a place that I get buffalo from. So you can always, it's not really that hard to keep feeding them if you put a little time into it, but it is, you know, you have to take care of them year round. Okay, number 4, this also pairs with the upkeep, is they have to be kept at a consistent temperature and humidity all the time. They're a little bit more hardy than most people like to give them credit for. You know, they can get a little cold or a little hot and it's not going to kill them or anything, or same thing with the humidity. You can go up and down and it's not going to kill them, but for them to want to feed consistently, they're going to have to be right around that 80-degree range and 40 to 60% humidity. Again, it varies a lot, and some people will swear higher or lower than the numbers I just threw out, but those are rough averages that you'll see. So you have to have a means of maintaining that all the time. And the temperature isn't that hard, but the humidity is. Reason number 5 is getting the beetles out of the skull after they're done. So when they're done eating all the meat, they don't just evacuate and never want to go in that skull again. So what I mean by that is they'll get way up in the nasal cavity up here, into the sides of the sinuses, and it's everything from adult beetles to little larvae. And, you know, same thing in the brain, and there's all sorts of little cavities in here. And they'll burrow in there, and it's really hard to get them out. You can try and blow compressed air, but then you're blowing air into your containment, and that's not good because you might blow more of them out. You can put the skull in water and drown them, and then, you know, you lose what you lose, but you have to get them all out of there, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. Reason number 6, and this is one of the big ones for me, is kind of 2 things paired in one again, is the space they take up in your shop, if you're going to have a lot of them, and the risk of them getting out, probably more importantly. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm trying to be a full-time taxidermist, not a full-time beetle guy. I still like doing my European mounts, but doing fur and shoulder mounts and stuff like that is what I really want to do. So if you're a taxidermist, you know at least one bad story of beetles getting out of whatever the guy was keeping them in, and they get into a mount or whatever. It's a big risk for somebody that's doing skulls and furs. As far as the bad stuff goes, that's about it. I mean, when it comes down to it, for me, it's the risk of them escaping, which I never did have, and the grease. And one more thing on the grease is, the longer you have to degrease a skull, the higher risk you go to bone degrading, there's risk of grease getting in the antlers. That grease has to evaporate somewhere. You know, it doesn't have to evaporate, but it goes in the water, and that water is warm in your degreasing bath, and that's going to evaporate. And things evaporate up, and you can get grease stains on the antlers. And like I said at the beginning of the video, the antlers are the trophy to me. Skulls are cool, but the antlers are the trophy. And risking antlers, the quality of the antlers, is not worth it to me. The positives about beetles, like I said, they're cool. I like them. I'll probably never have them again. But the good things are they clean very efficiently. At their highest feeding rate, they were cleaning whitetails in 24 hours. That's with a little bit of prep work. I would remove lower jaws, a fair bit of meat, eyes, brain, stuff like that by hand. But everything else they would clean off in 24 hours at their peak feeding, I guess. Otherwise, 2-3 days. One of the other good things is, like I started this video off, is it is an attraction, you know, so if that's what you're trying to do, you know, it's not hard to gain some attention with these things. But also for people in person, you know, just about every customer that I had stop by while I had the Beetles, they all wanted to see them. It's kind of cool for people to see that aren't very familiar with them. So there's that aspect of it. It's an attraction for your shop. People think it's cool. So that's really it. At the end of the day, as a taxidermist or a skull guy, you just gotta decide what you want to do. Like I said at the beginning, any of the methods, you can produce a great skull. You just got to make sure that you're careful and you follow the steps, or you know, you just send them off to somebody that's really good and let them do it. Yeah, that's about it. Hopefully this gets through to everybody. Still taking in a ton of skulls, still happy to do them, just not with beetles. Thanks for watching.